rural area, and the 98-year-old Mother Superior is about to make her final journey. And she's surrounded by the group of nuns, trying to make her as comfortable as possible, and maybe hear some final words of wisdom before she goes on. And so they're trying to keep her comfortable. And one of the nuns brings her a nice cup of warm milk right from the cow, because this is kind of out in the country that way. Nice warm milk, fresh from the cow. And sniffs it, but she just won't take a drink of it. So one of the nuns gets an idea, so she heads back into the kitchen and she finds this bottle of good Irish whiskey that had been given them for St. Patrick's Day, and she just puts actually kind of a liberal portion into that cup, and they take it back in and offer it again to the Mother Superior, and she sniffs it, takes a little bit, and she takes a little bit more, and she drinks the whole thing down. And she just seems to rally them a little bit, and they think, "Oh, Mother, can you leave us with some words of wisdom before you go?" She says, "Hey, whatever you do, don't sell that cow." That's a good story, isn't it? Well, St. Patrick's Day, it's next Saturday, I guess, but I just sort of brought into my mind a lot of, kind of Irish lore and legends, and as well as, the Lenten season now. It's a dynamic time, in a way. Everything is coming back to life. We see it all around us. And the Lenten season is kind of about preparing ourselves for a new flow of life, for the renewal and the infinite resurrectability that Easter symbolizes. By virtue of that Christ self in us, we can always step out into renewal and a new flow of life, whatever we've been through. That's the message. So I've been really kind of looking again at Charles Fillmore's really mystical little mystical teaching called Keep a True Lent, and pulling out some just nuggets from it that I just think are really, really helpful spiritual ideas to ponder in this time of preparing for a new flow of life. So this fourth Sunday focus, according to Fillmore, he claimed the idea of the Sabbath as a kind of focusing idea for this fourth Sunday in Lent. But it's not at all what we think of as the word Sabbath, like a day off, a day when we don't work, which is sort of what it became in an institutionalized form through the church. It's a much more mystical thing than that. Fillmore talked about the Sabbath as a state of mind we reach when we enter the realm of spirit and find true rest. That's very different, isn't it? And very mystical. Sabbath as a state of mind and heart, really, when we feel very close to spirit, where we feel very close to God. We've entered the realm of spirit, and we find this true rest and this sweet peace. That's what he's talking about. So it really has nothing to do with whether we work or not, whether we have a day off, what we do, where we are. It's a state of mind. We could be anywhere. We could be anywhere and be in the realm of spirit, couldn't we? I think so. And I think it's true that that's the only place where we're going to experience that sense of true rest, which really resonates, doesn't it? True rest. Doesn't that sound lovely? St. Augustine said, our hearts are ever restless until they rest in God. And I think that's exactly the idea Fillmore was talking about. When we have that sense of resting in God, that's true rest. That's sweet peace. That's really resting from our labors. So, realm of spirit, entering the realm of spirit, it made me think, and this is the Irish tie-in, it made me think of the idea of thin places in Celtic Christianity. Are you familiar with thin places? It's an idea that's always fascinated me. In the Irish, it's called Kiel-Ach, thin places. There's an understanding in Celtic Christianity, in the Irish world, that all throughout the natural world there are thin places where the veil between us and spirit is very thin. It's very thin. It feels like it's right here. We're in the realm of spirit. Places where the veil is thin between us and spirit, quote, where connections are made and amazing flows occur. I like that a lot. Very mystical idea. Places where connections are made and amazing flows occur. And in Celtic Christianity, it could be anyway. It could be a doorway. It could be a house. It could be a well. It could be a shoreline. It could be a part of a forest. It was understood that thin places were everywhere. So it's really very similar to what Fillmore was talking about. It's a sense, really. It's a sense of awareness. Could be anywhere where we feel like we're closer to God. We're in the realm of spirit. We feel closer. And it makes amazing flows possible. Amazing flows occur. Of course, in Christian tradition, we think very strongly of Jesus as a thin place. He himself became a thin place by virtue of this intense connection with God he felt. He walked at all times in this sense of oneness with God. The Father and I are one. I of myself can do nothing. The Father within does the work. And he told people they could rest. Follow my way. Come to me, you that are weary and heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. That's what he was talking about, the ability to rest in God. If we can know our oneness with God, we can rest from our labors. That's why he said his yoke was easy and his burden was light. It's a lot easier when we let God do the work. Would you agree? It's a lot easier when we let God do the work and not work so much ourselves at having to control everything and make everything happen and plot and plan everything. So a monk by the name of Father Emile, he described Jesus of Nazareth as so full of God, so at one with God, that he was leaking it like crazy. He was leaking it. That God energy was leaking out from him everywhere. And so that's what people felt, and felt healed by and blessed by. God can do that. A person can become a thin place, can be walking around in that realm of spirit if we're keenly enough aware of God's presence with us. There's wonderful legends about St. Patrick in this way. He had similarly a very intense awareness of his God connection, of walking in God's presence, of God's power flowing through him, of God guiding and protecting him. And there are lots of legends in Celtic Christianity about this. St. Patrick, of course, served as a missionary in Ireland in about the 5th century, I think. This prayer composed, that chant was little sections of that prayer, was composed by St. Patrick in 433 AD, a prayer that became known as the Deer's Cry. Apparently he had a group of followers. This is one of the big legends about St. Patrick. He presumably brought Christianity to Ireland, and he must have been very dynamic because he had immediately, in a short period of time, attracted a great many followers. So he and a group of his followers were on their way to the king's court. They were walking, and they were very much aware that there was a plot to kill them, and they might very likely be attacked by a group of druids. So there was an ambush plan, but he doesn't cancel their journey or their march through the countryside. They go on as usual, and the legend goes they are reciting this prayer: I bind myself to the power of heaven, light of the sun, the depth of the ocean. Christ is with me. Every eye that sees me, every ear that hears me, it's all Christ. And they were kind of reciting this or singing this prayer as they marched. And so when they came to the place where the ambush was planned and the druids were in hiding watching them, they didn't see St. Patrick and his followers. They saw a herd of gentle deer. It's a nice legend, isn't it? They were transformed into deer so the druids wouldn't see them. Lovely. It's called the miracle of the deer, that legend. And that prayer that we did a little piece of, which I brought copies of, by the way, the full thing, if you want to take one home with you. It's really about trusting God, letting God do the work, and resting in that, and the amazing flow that occurred. Amazing flows occur when we can rest in God. Thomas Merton said, when we rest in God, God works in us. When we rest in God, God works in us. And that comes out as healing energy, as it did for Jesus. It comes out as guidance and protection, as it did for St. Patrick. It flows through us in different ways, but these amazing flows, they're much more likely to occur when we are resting in God and letting God do the work. instead of us doing everything. And it's a much easier way to proceed through life. I stumbled upon, or Joe and I kind of met in Ireland, a wonderful contemporary artist by the name of Carol Cronin, who just kind of came to mind as I was thinking about this idea of thin places and resting in God, and how, when we can feel like we're God connected, our awareness of that presence with us, the amazing flow that can occur through us, the guidance that can come, the energy, the peace, all the qualities of God that can flow through us in amazing ways that we couldn't plan, that we couldn't make happen. But when we learn to rest in God, commune with God, and enter that realm of spirit every day, amazing flows can happen. And for artist Carol Cronin, it happened in terms of her creative energy, in terms of her art and her work in the world. She does these amazing seascapes. I put one on the church Facebook page in case any of you happen to see that. They're so vibrant. You feel like you're in the waves, and the light is right in there with you. It's just, they're huge. We met her on the street. We saw her gallery in Dingle, Ireland, and we're just taken by this huge seascape in the window. She was actually closing up, but she saw us looking, and so she opened back up, said, "Come on in, we'll show you around." And we looked at all her amazing seascapes, and she and Joe talked art, for 20 minutes or so. And she told us her story a little bit as when we were there, that she had started out as a very different kind of artist. In art school, she had been studying abstract art, which maybe was popular at that time, I don't know, but that's what she was studying, and she became an abstract artist, and she did that for a number of years. She traveled widely. She lived elsewhere, although she had been born in Ireland. She lived 10 years in Amsterdam, and was doing abstract art, but she went to southwestern Ireland, that southwest coastal area where we were, where the shoreline is so dramatic and beautiful, and the ocean seems so beautiful. She went there on a trip, and realized she was kind of in a thin place for herself, or it brought the thin place to light in her consciousness, because she knew she had to move there. So within days, so she kind of closed up whatever, her place in Amsterdam, and moved there. And she lived pretty much alone on one of the Aran Islands, Blasket Island, for 6 months. One of 3 residents on the island, I think. And she stopped painting and just studied waves and water and light on water and light through waves, and just rested in the spirit of the place. And it must have really entered her consciousness. She was in the realm of spirit. And there was an amazing flow underway in her of creative energy. After a while, she began to sketch, not painting for quite a while, but sketching waves, sketching shoreline, doing these, and she just immersing herself in this space and resting and stopping other things, letting God kind of work in her, letting energy flow through her. She found herself with a whole new creative surge coming through, a whole new flow of life, a whole new flow. She found a new enthusiasm, which of course means in God, in theos, in God. She was in the realm of spirit. She was resting in that, and God was working in her as she rested in that. Whole new creative life emerged for her. And after a while, she moved to the nearby small village of Dingle. She has her own gallery there now to this day. She paints these incredible, sort of jaw-dropping seascapes. That word is used more than once in describing her work. That you just feel like you're just entering a thin place yourself as you gaze at them. And it came from her stopping her own efforts in a way, stopping what she thought she already knew and needed to keep doing. There was an urge in her to, no, rest in God. Stop that, rest in God, enter that realm of spirit, and feel that energy, and let it direct her efforts and her energies, and it turned into an amazing flow of new creativity, new life, new work. So obviously being a thin place is something we can practice. It's something we can practice. We don't have to stumble upon it. That's great good news for us. We don't have to go to Southern Ireland or anywhere. It can be in a spot in our own home. It can be where you're sitting right now. We can feel our sense of God connection more deeply and rest in that. And let the amazing flows occur. And the more we rest in that, the more we make that a part of our lives, the more that flow gets going. And the more routinely it flows through us as guidance, as healing energy, as steadying peace, as new strength, as creative ideas. All that God is can flow through us when we're open to that, and we're in touch with it, and we know we are. And it's something we can learn, and it's something we can help others learn. I was inspired by a little story. I actually read it years ago, and then I stumbled upon it again recently, about a mother, her approach to putting her kids to bed at night. She had a routine, like many parents probably, asking, how was your day, something like that. But that's a question that's usually answered very, very, very simply with, it was okay, something like that. But she would specifically ask her children every night at bedtime as she was tucking them in, where did you meet God today? Where did you meet God today? And it was a routine they had. And they would say, well, teacher helped me with my homework, she was really nice. Or I saw a tree in the schoolyard that was just all full of flowers, it was beautiful. And she also would share where she encountered God that day. And so for each of her children before bed, they kind of entered a thin place before going off to sleep. With a keener awareness of God as a presence in their lives. What a gift that is. What a gift that is. I was blessed. My mother would do that for me before bed every night. She would give me a God talk. That's what I called them, a little God talk. This goes back to about age 4, 5. It would be a little God talk before she'd bed, and she said, we're like all fish in an ocean of God. And can a fish ever get away from God? Could a fish ever leave, be separated? No. Always in the ocean. And I go to bed with this idea of swimming in an ocean of God. It's inescapable. It goes through us. We breathe it in. It flows through us. What a blessing that is. We can enter that as a thin place. That's kind of like entering the realm of spirit where amazing flows occur. That's the experience of the Sabbath that Fillmore was talking about, where we can really experience true rest and sweet peace because we're so aware there's a power and presence right here with us in every moment. While we rest in God, God works in us, and everything becomes easier, and amazing flows occur. So the simple affirmation today is this one, if you want to join me in it. I rest in God, and God works in me. So join me in that. I rest in God, and God works in me. Let's take that into prayer for a moment. Hold that truth more deeply in our minds and hearts. We can experience true rest and sweet peace in this moment, in any moment, every day. Whenever we affirm we are one with God, God is at work through us and in us, flowing through us as healing, renewing energy, as creativity, as nourishment, as support, as guidance, as protection, and power is in us, with us, always. We can rest in that and know that all is well and be alert for the amazing flows of life that will unfold for us. We rest in God, and God works in us. And we are grateful. And so it is. Amen.